Hi guys, Tanya here from Built in the Bush, bringing you the interview with Rural Aid CEO John Warlters now. So we've got uh, Chris Jennings' side of the story. We're getting Rural Aid side of the story. We're also trying to get in touch with some of the other, as I said, some of the other charity organisations that are involved, and then we'll go back and have a look at what's been said, at what the facts, what the receipts say, and then what we can do differently and to work better and more effectively in the future. I just want to stress I'm actually not promoting to donate to Rural Aid at the moment. John made it clear as well, they're not involved in this part of the cleanup. They've still got a lot of money that hasn't been released yet. I go and do your own homework on it, but I'd be recommending to donate directly to them. There's a GoFundMe page for the Quilpie Shire, doesn't include the in town purely because they didn't get flooded. There's also individual ones for Adavale. Dargo's got its own things going, etc. At least if you're donating directly to them, you know it's going directly to that cause and to those people, because something that is very quickly emerging out of all this is when we're donating, maybe it's not all going where we think it is when we think it's going. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Give us your feedback. It's all about letting people share their stories, and then we'll have a look back and see how we can make things work better. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to a special episode of Built in the Bush, where we're following the awful Western floods going on at present. So today we've got the CEO of Rural Aid, John Warlters, has made the time on Easter Monday to meet with us. So thank you, John, and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tanya. Thanks for the opportunity, and what a important story to tell. What's been happening in Western Queensland, absolutely catastrophic situation. So just thank you for this opportunity.
No, happy to have you. We're trying to shine a light on all the charities and organisations that are helping to rebuild, because as you well know, but most people at home possibly don't realise, the rebuild is going to take a long time. So I guess the purpose of this is, what is the process with it? Like, how do you guys first get the call up when it's going on? How do you know when to start getting into action and sort of start getting donations and looking at what you can do to help?
Yeah, it's a really great story to tell, because it's so many facets to this story, and as we know, it started as a good news story with that first rain falling, where it was really desperately needed, and there was so much hope and positivity around that rain. But then as the falls continued, and we saw 300 to 600 mils of rain, depending on where you were, and all the disaster and devastation that came with that. I guess from a Rural Aid perspective, we started to get active when those river levels started to rise. And for us, that's often reaching out to farming families who are registered with our organisation to get a message out to them where we can, just to say, hey, this situation that's unfolding, hope you're okay. If you're going to need some help and support, don't forget Rural Aid, we're there. We don't get involved in that really hands-on ground level of sandbagging and SES type work. We don't have the skill set or the expertise there, and there's organisations who are incredibly good at that. So we like to just stay out of the way of that. But we were really active quite early there, when right back on March 30, when the first loads of hay were able to get into communities like Charleville, for example, and then onto the outskirts of Quilpie, and then into areas like Blackwell. And that was very much in conjunction with the state government through DPI and a task force that it had assembled, recognising that emergency fodder was going to be required to feed those stranded livestock. So a lot of that fodder that was moved very, very early, like I say, right back on March 30, was helped largely by Rural Aid. And it was then the choppers that swung into action to get that hay out to where it was needed. And we pretty much had a daily meeting with that task force to make sure the right amount of fodder was on the move, and it was going to get to the right areas, and it was coordinating as river levels either increased or decreased and road access either opened up or closed off again, because those were the scenarios that continued to unfold, because it was very much a moving feast.
Yeah, they were dynamic. Yeah, absolutely. I know the Quilpie bridge was meant to come down and go back up, which it did, but it didn't come down anywhere near as quick as it was meant to, and lots of other crossings and rivers as well. So that in itself is a task, just keeping onto where you've got access to, where you don't have access to, who's in most need at that time, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're probably a little bit fortunate in the first instance. The first couple of loads of hay into Charleville and then onto the outskirts of Quilpie, which is on that Adavale road turn-off, we were able to have another staging point there. We were able to get in there, and then it wasn't that long after that more rain came, and that road was closed again. A little bit later in that same week, on the Thursday of that week, which from memories were about April 3, we were able to get a truck down into Cunnamulla with hay. Again, that was hay that could then chop it out. And then the following day, which was on that Friday, April 4, having sought and gained the necessary approvals, we were able to get a truck down into Eulo. And that meant our driver sort of having to go through quite a deal of water to get there. But we were successfully able to do that and get hay into that area there again, so those choppers could do the work. And I think
so
at this time...
was that, sorry, for Eulo?
That was down into Eulo.
Yep. What date did that? Because that would have been the first. They were quite isolated, weren't they?
They were. That was on the Friday morning on April 4. Yep. So it was still very early in things, and it was absolutely about getting through a section of road that was under quite a deal of water, but having sought and gained the necessary approvals from TMR and others to be able to make that happen. So, yeah, we're really quietly proud of the effort and the role that we played during that very much emergency phase. And now this ongoing piece, and you used that word recovery because it's going to be enormous recovery ahead for people. It's not about days or weeks. This is months and years ahead. And we really, I guess that's one of the things we often talk about at Rural Aid. We stand with our mates in the bush for as long as they need us. And we've absolutely done that in previous events, and we'll do that again in this situation that's unfolding right now.
Yeah. And so what does your part then in recovery look like? I know we said earlier, Rural Aid doesn't get involved in the emergency, the sandbagging. What's your specialty in the recovery process?
It probably comes down to three key areas, just that ongoing need for hay, for livestock, if that is going to be need, and it probably will be until that country really bounces back, and it will bounce back quite quickly. I guess we're seeing that out of some of the imagery that's coming out of those communities now where the water has leveled. There's this beautiful green tinge that's quickly coming to life. Well, no, it's probably got to get a bit of body behind it before livestock are going to be okay, but that's going to happen quite quickly. So hay for a period of time will still be really important. Financial assistance, and the sort of financial assistance that we can offer isn't the big lumps of money like state and federal governments will do through grants and loans. It's very much about a quick hit of cash via a prepaid Visa card that individuals can use for what's really important to them at that then and there moment in time.
So you bring up a good point there, John. So what does that look like for people listening that are thinking, okay, how do I access? I'm a primary producer. I'm still stranded. I've been absolutely impacted by this. And I need some sort of. I've got hay. I've got that sort of stuff, but I am looking for some sort of cash, short-term or small cash injection. Yep. What would they do, or what does that look like that Rural Aid can offer? Yeah,
the best way, if they're not registered with Rural Aid, is to register with us. Now, realise that can be a bit problematic for people under these sorts of circumstances. So typically we would say jump onto the website and just follow the prompts from there. But given that that's not always an easy thing to do for people at these times, jump on the phone to us and we can talk people through what's required there. And it really is a simple process. Once you're registered with us, then we can get that assistance out. And and it is flowing out to people at this time. So it's that prepaid Visa card, which I mentioned, that people can use
And
for
what's the value of that?
It's
Sorry.
$1,000 on that card, and that just gives people a chance to pay a few bills or go and get a few bits and pieces, just to get going, while cash flow is often really tight at these times. And the other really important component recovery piece, what that could look like.
Yes, yep. So we just finished about the gift card, and then you were saying what the other support looks like. So counselling, did you say? That's one of the other services?
Yes.
And again, they just register to access that?
Absolutely. So once people are registered with Rural Aid, they can have a conversation with one of our counsellors. The largest team at Rural Aid is our mental health and wellbeing team, and they're people who typically live and work in rural communities. They're there to really, at times like this, to offer that support. So right now, that is phone-based support. Unfortunately, we have a couple of resources that can move around and get into flood-impacted communities, but right now it's very much about phone-based support. And a conversation.
So they can't do video.
Oh yeah, they can. Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
They can definitely do video.
Yeah, so they still get face to face.
Absolutely. Yeah,
just remote.
Absolutely. And our experience has been that people get through that emergency phase, the adrenaline's sort of pumping through the veins, and people are really very much dealing with that situation they have in front of them. The water recedes, the real eyeballing of the challenge ahead has become really clear, and quite often we've sort of found that people find themselves in a bit of a flat spot at that point in time, and a conversation with a counsellor can help them just reset and just get them back in the right frame of mind to get going with all that work that they have ahead of them. And it doesn't have to be a one-off conversation. It's a conversation that can be a regular conversation, just to provide that help, that support, deal with stress, deal with anxiety, help them just get their head around all the challenges, financial, emotional, that they have in front of them, and just to ride with them through that journey ahead.
Yep. And so they're all registered counsellors or psychologists, or
they're
both?
accredited.
Who are they dealing with?
Yeah, they're accredited counsellors with the Australian Counselling Association. So they're authentic, legitimate professionals. They live and work in communities. They've been supportive through droughts, bushfires, floods, and I guess they just get what being a producer's all about, and just being able to relate to their needs and
what they might
their challenges.
Yep. So further support from that then is it's registering with Rural Aid. There'd still be hay drops going on, though, I imagine. There's still plenty that can't get out and won't be able to get out for some time.
Yeah, very much so. So we've got a whole schedule of drops being planned that late last week into this week, and then just ongoing from that point onwards, just for however long that's required. Some of that is hay that has been donated. We've had some very generous people who've said, look, we've got some hay that we would like to send in this direction. They've reached out to Rural Aid. We're coordinating the transport of that hay to where it's needed most, and that's happening at the moment. And where we don't have donated hay in locations, well, we'll purchase that hay, and then again just make sure that people get what they need at this time.
Yep. So people can donate. That was my next question. Donate. You guys have raised, I saw there was 200 grand from an agribusiness lunch the other day. Morton Co, I think there were some big corporate donations at the start of this. Have you got a dollar figure so far of how much has been donated just through your organisation towards this disaster?
Oh, look, it would be north of $500,000, and that's come from all sectors. It's come from mum and dads who may be in metropolitan Brisbane or Sydney or in a regional centre. They've seen the problem. They want to be a part of the solution. They want to offer their help and support, and they've reached out to Rural Aid with a donation to do that. But we also have had those businesses, and you touched on
John,
Warlters Co.
this is drop. I can't hear what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Very frustrating, isn't it? Like, fair income, I'm sitting in bloody Brisbane, so you'd like to think if we can't get it right here, then where are we going to get it right?
Yeah, this is crazy.
I might have to call you on the road tomorrow, maybe when I'm out and heading west again. Maybe I'm going to get a better result there, which would be slightly unexpected.
I can't hear any.
It's just no. Sorry about that. Hopefully you have more luck.
That's all right. Hopefully we've got it this time. Jeez, I don't know what's going on with it. All right, we're back for round 4. It sounded like maybe your Bluetooth might have kicked in when the phone rang before. Might have been why the audio lost.
Yeah, I think so. Look, surely we've had everything that could possibly go wrong now, so it's got to be smooth sailing.
It has to be. So you were just answering, you guys have raised a lot of money. Do you have any idea what the actual amount is raised so far through you guys for this event?
Look, as far as I understand, it's about the $500,000 mark, and a lot of that has been from mums and dads from all around the country. That typical scenario, show them a problem, they want to be a part of the solution, so we're really appreciative of that generosity. Mm-hmm. We also have had some good corporate support also from a number of businesses that have wanted to get in and lend their weight to our efforts supporting those families who've been impacted. So Morton Co. has been one of those, very generous. Ray White Rural, similarly, very generous. WFI, insurance people, very, very generous and very, very quick to move, wanting to be there right from the get-go. And similarly, the Morgan's Financial, and a bit ironic, Morgan's well known, they have an event called Big Dry Friday, so a bit ironic, but they're just people whose heart's in the bush, wanting to make a difference, and have nominated Rural Aid as one of those organisations that they want to lend their support to, so again we can do the work that we do.
Yeah. And so of that 500, do you know how much has already been delivered on the ground? We spoke about sort of numbers of bales of hay and trucks and things like that. Do we know rough dollar amounts?
Not an exact figure at this stage, because it's very much an evolving figure. Part of it's around donated fodder, so we're getting some donated fodder, and we're helping out with some transport, then we're getting fodder that we're purchasing.
So you just made a good point there, John, because one of the things, the feedback that's come through and that you guys have got some criticism over is that you don't take donated hay, that you only pay for your hay. So would you like to address that? Yeah,
sure. No, and look, we do take donated hay, especially under these sorts of circumstances, where we have really a firm set of guidelines on how we operate. Is any hay that we move needs to be supported with the vendor deck, and it needs to come from outside of the fire ant zone. So they're the two requirements that we always ask, and that way, with that, we can guarantee the person that we're delivering fodder to is we're not delivering them a future headache down the track. So we think that's a really important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you don't take donations then from anywhere in that sort of southeast corner, anywhere where there's fire ants?
If it's in that red fire ant zone, no, we don't. We've certainly taken fodder out of southeast Queensland, but it's not in that impacted zone. So we've taken quite a bit of fodder out of the southeast, and that's been some of the fodder that we've moved out to some of the staging points that we talked about earlier in that very initial emergency response. So back on March 30, back on March 31, and those subsequent days, some of that hay was hay that came out of southeast Queensland. It definitely didn't come out of a fire ant zone, though. I think the other point that we tried to make throughout this whole process is, along the journey here, the main way of getting hay to people has been via choppers. And there's been 700, nearly 800 flights to get hay out to people, and it was hay that was lifted from those designated staging points. But there was only so much hay that a chopper could move at any one time, and it's all about, I guess, working with DPI to organise it so that the right amount of hay was there at the right amount of time so it could be moved at the right time, and to have that occur in a very staged process. Things are obviously changing very rapidly post roads opening up again and people having access to get on and off their places. So that was the approach that we took. It was very much done in collaboration with government and via this industry task force, and I think we've played a really important role in there in hopefully keeping a whole lot of livestock that were stranded alive and reduce some of those livestock losses.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, there's plenty of livestock that certainly wouldn't be alive without that, which is why we actually need big charities like Rural Aid. I guess it takes me to my next question, though, is there were reports that then you guys were stopping some of the little people on the ground, so Jennings Bulk Haulage, things like that wanted to immediately donate and take it out there. Do you want to give some background on that? Is that something that you guys actually did try to stop them working with you? How do we learn from this? Because there's a place for both.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a really key point. There's a place for everyone here, and our attitude has always been and will always be that we don't get in the way of people doing what they want to do. We're a charity. We're not a rule maker. We don't have any powers to say to an individual or an organisation, you can't do that, or you do this, or you do that. That's not the job that we play. The role that we play was very much to work with the government at the time in a set of emergency circumstances. And we've got to really have some context around the situation that was occurring at this point in time. Rivers were still rising, roads were cut off, people were essentially isolated, and the way to get that fodder to those stranded livestock was via chopper. And
it wasn't the only way. It wasn't the only way. It wasn't the only way. There was still some hay needed and able to get via road.
Yeah, and fair call. Like, not every single bale of hay was delivered by that. I think the rough maths on it is that there was something like 2,500 bales delivered by chopper over through 700 odd flights. So I think that was the vast majority of the hay was delivered through that means. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Not every single bale was delivered that way. There were other options. At the end of the day, we did not stop anyone delivering anything that they wanted to do. Our message to people was, we want to work with you. We don't want to move all of the fodder at the right one time to a particular location. Let's do this in a strategic way. Every bale is going to be needed. It's just not going to be needed in the first 5 minutes, but it will be needed over a period of time, and that was the key point. And that's where our position was at the time. I think we've made the right decisions to support the effort that was needed at the time, and come back to the whole point. We're a charity. We're there to support people. We're not there to tell people, individuals or organisations
organisations what they can or can't do if they want to get out and support the people who need the help the most. And that's our attitude. It's not about us at the end of the day. Far from it. We're simply just a cog in the wheel. The absolute focus of everything we do is on the people who need the support, and that's the way it will always be.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be for any not-for-profit. I'm glad you said that, John, and thank you for reiterating. It should be for any not-for-profit, and I'm sure every Australian, when they donate, expects that. And we certainly know that Chris and Bob Jennings and NQ Fuels and all those others are certainly doing it for the right reasons as well. I guess I wanted to get your side of that because I think it's un-Australian if we're stopping any Australians from helping out in times of need. But I also don't believe in cancel culture, and I think that we lose all the learnings and reflections from these interactions because we just go, that person's wrong and that person's right. And quite frankly, the world's not that black and white. So what can you guys do differently perhaps next time too to try and ensure that we can all work together a bit better at the time?
Yeah, look, it's a great question because we've absolutely asked ourselves, how do we do things better through this event, as we've asked ourselves after the North Queensland floods, after we've asked ourselves after the bushfires and all of those other big events that come along. I guess that what we keep coming back to is how do we talk to the people that we want to support and find out what it is that they need from us, when it is that they need it from us, and how they would like us to get that to them. So through this process, we've had multiple ways that we've tried to communicate with some of those farming families who've been impacted by it, and through that we've learnt absolutely plenty, and we continue to learn plenty. In terms of the bigger picture, we're just simply out there to play a very small role. We'll continue to try to be good at what we do. Other people can do what they want to do as well, and collectively, hopefully, that means people get what they need from the worst set of circumstances that are in front of them at the time.
Yeah, and I guess I just want to reiterate, as someone that was around Charlotte and Quilpie once we could get in or there, and then afterwards and in between when I went back up, there was a place for both. There was a time when the rural aid hay ran out, and it was lucky that there was the other donated hay. So my big thing from this is I want us all to learn how do we work together more effectively so that the organisations that are there can do what they're meant to do, and that the little people and the little businesses that want to get in and help immediately, because that's needed as well. How do we make sure we work effectively together next time, I guess?
Yeah, look, and it's a great question, and I think communication at the end of the day is the key across everything. So whether it needs to be coordinated by, I don't think government necessarily, but organisations just having conversations amongst themselves. I know that happens on many, many occasions. Maybe that's the sort of thing that needs to happen into the future as well.
Yep, and that could definitely be a good point as well. I'll let you go. You're so just to fill in again, we spoke how you guys get involved, etc. So what's the purpose of going out there today? What's the objective? What are you guys trying to achieve in this next stage of support?
Yeah, again, it's very much about just wanting to hear firsthand from people about what it is they need from an organisation like Rural Aid. What do they need more broadly? What are the gaps in what's not getting to them at this point in time? It's also just about reinforcing that we're an organisation that likes to be on the ground where we can. We're certainly not an organisation that wants to get in the way, so we try to time when we're in a community in the right way, so you don't have someone else in town trying to find a feed or get a bed for the night or do any of that sort of stuff. We'll turn up when it is the right time to be there, where we can hopefully add a little bit of value to that community and to those people. So I think a whole lot of conversations, but a whole lot of listening, and hopefully through that we just find ways that we can help people at this time, but even be better at what we do as well.
Yep. thank you for making the time, John, for the fourth time to catch up for this. We finally got technology to work. I'll let you get back on the road. Thank you again for what you guys are doing. Let's all try and work together as effectively as possible moving forward. But yeah, we need big organisations and we need smaller ones on the ground, and the hard work, as we've spoken about, the hard work only starts now.
Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
when the regions and the people really need our support.
Yep, totally agree. And just thanks for the opportunity to be a part of the conversation, and our thoughts are with those people who are on that long recovery journey ahead.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for your time, John. All the best. We may touch in again in the future, but all the best, and we'll leave you get to the more important work.
Good on you. Thanks, Tanya. Appreciate it.